So now looking at the ways that they tried to character assassinate Jesus now and to smear campaign him, we see that in Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 3 I'll start from verse 20 because there's something that I really want to speak on, because we spoke about that in the story of Nehemiah, and it was to do with familiar people. I'm going to quickly touch on this because it is something that is not, it is not a solitary, it's not a solitary issue. Whenever there is something that is familiar, it is something that we are used to, it is something that we are comfortable in. What I'm about to read is something that happened to Nehemiah when he had a prophet that he was familiar with, a prophet that he knew, who came to him and he prophesied lies to Nehemiah to try and bring him fear, to try and trap him, in other words. And this subject is quite a bit of a, it's a bit of a sad one, because in such situations, when we're talking about familiar people, we're talking about people who we grew up with, people who know us, people who, some of these people were meant to nurture us and look after us, but along the way, things happened and they got sold out. And most times you will see that those who are familiar people, who are used to bring someone down, they are mostly sold out, as in they sell themselves out to do this evil thing, meaning there's something that they benefit out of pulling you down. And it is something that I wanted us to talk about, and I'll quickly read it anyway from Mark chapter 3 verse 20 and see how that applied to Jesus, because it's easy to look at it in terms of ourselves, but sometimes we don't realize just how much it also affected Jesus. There's certain things that they don't appear to have affected Jesus, but they actually did. If we read in Mark chapter 3 verse 20, it says Jesus is accused first by his family and then by teachers of the law. But the one I wanted us to pick on first of all is family. So in verse 20 it says, then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him. Note, to take charge of him, for they said he is out of his mind. One of the most painful things that could happen to a person is when their own family comes up against them. It is one thing when they come and they're attacking you, but it's another thing if they are coming out and telling others that you are out of your mind, and making others to join in such a view and make other people view you as if you are out of your mind. And this is the situation that Jesus said. We're talking about Jesus' own family. We're talking about his mother, his brothers. We're not talking about other people, but family, close family. And there's a lot of people who have experienced situations whereby their own family have ostracized them and have made claims against them, not just amongst themselves, but even to people that know them, and have caused them to be seen in a particular way by people just because of those claims. And there's so many other people also who have been put in mental institutes by their own family, and yet they're not meant to be there. All because they are different. One of the best stories I'll put that one is Joseph and his brothers. And I believe, other people have spoken about this, about Joseph being ostracized by his own brothers, and not just ostracized, almost killed by his own brothers. But then, they decided, no, we're going to sell him out. And so whenever you see family going to do these things, it's either they are totally confused on the type of person you are and the giftings that God has given you, or they are jealous about what you have and the giftings you have, and they feel that if they take you out of the way, then they wouldn't feel so bad about themselves. Joseph's brothers did not want Joseph to outshine them. He was at that time, I believe he was the second youngest of the children, of all the children of Jacob, and they did not want that idea that our second youngest brother, who was a favorite on top of that of the father, being the one to outshine them. And sometimes it's because they're hired, like Shemaiah. They're promised money, they're promised wealth, they're promised all sorts of things. Whether this hiring that is taking place is from people, or if it's actually from the kingdom of darkness. Satan can come in and can hire your family members to join the kingdom of darkness and come up against you because you would have promised them that they can get what you have, they can steal what you have, and so they would go into all these diviners and people with their familiar spirits and all those things to try and look into your future. And we thank God for we are covered by the blood of Jesus, and that whatever God gives you, it cannot really be taken away from you. People can try, but it cannot be taken away from you. It's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people are delayed in life, because there are a lot of people that they have around them that have been trying and trying and trying and trying to steal what they have, doing everything they can, throwing every obstacle that they can possibly put in front of them, putting every roadblock, every hindrance, resistance, putting all kinds of restrictions. I mean, I can go on and on. There's a lot that can be done, and sometimes, as I said, be thrown into mental institutes just to make sure you can never come out and you can never shine. But God is faithful. Just wanted to put that one out there, because this scripture really touched me when I realized that also Jesus had to go through that kind of rejection by his own family, his own brothers. I mean, later on, you even hear that those same brothers were asking him, why don't you just show yourself that you are truly the Son of God? Like, in other words, they didn't believe him. They didn't believe that he was the Son of God either. So, again, familiar people. And touching on that as well, there are things called familiar spirits. Spirits that are familiar with the bloodlines and the generations. And these familiar spirits, they pop up in all different directions. They all pop up in different people in the family. And you'll realize that for your family to come up against you, sometimes it's because there are familiar spirits that are behind them that are causing them to operate the way they're operating. And I will say familiar because these demons have been there for generations upon generations, and they know exactly what to say. They know exactly how to act. They know exactly what to do to create a situation, or to get a reaction from you, or to trip you up, or they know the weaknesses. They know the strengths of the family. They know the weaknesses of the family. They know who is who, how, what temperament, each of the family members have. And if they've been there for generations, it means they know the patterns. They know the patterns. They know who might likely to inherit certain traits and certain characteristics. And it's almost like they study the family bloodline just so that they can be able to carry on destroying, to keep family bloodline in bondage, and to steal from them until they are absolutely, they have absolutely nothing. That the children and the grandchildren don't end up having nothing in life. It's all because they're familiar spirits that have been studying and studying, and with each study and with each generation that they manage to enter into, they are getting more information. They are getting more, I won't say clever, but much smarter in the way they do things. They are learning as they go through generation to generation. They're learning more and more about that bloodline. There's still so much from these family bloodlines. Even worse, if that family is into graveyard rituals, and they do mediums and spiritists, which most of the times people with familiar spirits tend to do. If you read in Isaiah 65, you'll see that the Lord talks about familiar spirits and those who operate with familiar spirits. The same thing goes with the story of Saul, King Saul, that he actually got to a place in a time where he was so desperate, he actually decided he was going to go to a medium, a spiritist, to try and bring up Samuel from the grave, just so that he can be able to speak with Samuel and have some direction, because he had become so desperate. He decided to go down that path. But familiar spirits are so vicious. They see a big star and they go after that big star, because they know that big star is going to bring the family out of whatever bondages they might be in. And so, there's a lot that comes into this thing about family and familiar enemies, I would put it. Having your family against you, there's so much more to it. If you check closely, you'll see that if you had more than one family member, can I say more than two family members coming up against you, you will notice that there is always a certain aspect or certain characteristics they have that is similar. Whether it is the way they talk, or whether it's the way they behave, or it's the way they treat you, or it's a certain, maybe there are certain statements that they say that seem similar. You know, it could be two different people. It could be maybe your uncle from one side of the family, and then you see it popping up maybe from one cousin from another, side of your family. They don't even meet with each other. They don't even talk to each other. But somehow the spirit is speaking. The way they are behaving, the way they are talking to you, the way they are treating you is almost similar. It could mean that the familiar spirit could be operating in that family. And it sees you, and it is discouraging you, and it's trying to pop up in as many people as possible, because they have to, what can I say, solidify their attacks against you. So if it's a certain word, maybe it's something like maybe they call you dumb. If they're calling you dumb, if one person is calling you dumb, then another person calls you dumb, and then another person calls you dumb, and another person calls you dumb. It's trying to solidify that word in you, that you are dumb, so that you end up thinking to yourself that just maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe, to be honest, I am not that clever. And you start thinking, you start actually buying into that lie, even if you don't believe it, or somehow you just start seeing your mind coming into agreement with it, not because you want to believe it, but because it's being repeated to you over and over again. A bit like when you go on social media and you see something going on over and over again, it'll start to stick into your mind. So that's the same concept the enemy will be trying to do through familiar spirits, to try and solidify certain attacks within your life or within a bloodline. Mark chapter 3 from verse 22 now. Now listen very closely, because I was just talking about familiar spirits right now. Now listen, the family was the one that called him and said he was out of his mind. Now listen to what the teachers of the law say. And the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, he is possessed by Beelzebul, by the prince of demons. He is driving out demons. It started with the family. The family started saying he's out of his mind. Basically, he's crazy. He's lost it. Then from the family, you start to hear the teachers of the law also coming in and saying he is possessed. He is possessed by a demon. Not just a demon, but a prince of demons. So, you see exactly what I was trying to explain here, that you have familiar spirits saying one thing over there. You have a familiar spirit saying one thing in one person, and that same familiar spirit comes into another and says the same thing to try and solidify something in you, or to try and make it seem like there is something wrong with you, to the people that are around your life. So now if you have someone who is not walking in the Spirit of God, and you are not discerned, it is so easy to fall into the trap of, okay, his family is calling him crazy, on one side, and then the other side you have the teachers of the law calling him possessed. I should stay away from this person because there is no good report on either side. There is like the people that seem to know him and the people that are reputable are saying bad things concerning him. I mean, the Satan knows that family is the people that you grew up with. They know you, or they're supposed to know you. But when it comes to the things of the spirit, you are only known through the spirit. This is why I was saying at the very beginning of this unity series that for us to be unified, for us to recognize each other, for us to be discerned, we need to be in the spirit. And this is why it's so important to be in this, to always be in the spirit, because it is so easy to get caught up in the lies and the deceptions of the enemy. You see, I'm talking about familiar spirits and how they operate. Now, if it is someone who is not fully discerned in the spirit realm, seeing family members on that side saying evil things concerning their family member, and then you see reputable people of high regard also saying something bad concerning that same family member, it can throw you off if you are not discerned. Only those who walk in the spirit will know and will understand the situation that's taking place. That's why it says birds of the same feather flock together. Those who actually understand what is taking place in the realms of the spirit will understand what is taking place in the physical. Judge not people on the outward appearance and on the rumors that are flying around concerning them, but judge a person in the spirit, and you would have judged rightly.